My name is Haley Harder, and I'm going to be talking about a very controversial topic in our society: abortion. Abortion is obviously an extremely touchy subject for a lot of people. Almost everyone has firm opinions about abortion, and it has become a topic that is brought up extremely often in politics and social media. There is so much content out there on the subject of abortion, and it is very easy to be overwhelmed by it. When forming an opinion about abortion, I think it's really important to look past all of the misconceptions and look at the facts. In the United States, abortion has been legal since 1973's court case of Roe v. Wade. However, since more recently, the pro-life movement and those backing it have been actively fighting to take away this right. Because of the Supreme Court case in 1992, Planned Parenthood v. Casey declared that states could place their own restrictions on abortion so long as they don't place an undue burden on the women seeking the procedure. The issue there is that there isn't a real definition on what constitutes an undue burden. There are over 1,000 different restrictions that were placed on abortion. Though it is completely medically unnecessary, 25 states require an ultrasound before the procedure, and 3 of those states actually require you to look at the ultrasound while the doctor will describe the fetus and the pregnancy to you in detail. Some states will actually require a waiting period before allowing the procedure. And then there's others that are actually going against the abortion clinics themselves and creating these outrageous restrictions, such as the width of the hallways, in order to get them shut down because they're not following regulations. As stated previously, abortion in the United States was illegal between the 1880s and 1993. During this time, it was extremely common for women to turn to illegal ways to get the procedure, whether their desperate attempt involved themselves trying to induce their own abortion, or if they turned to often untrained physicians to perform the procedure for them. Illegal abortions proved to be extremely dangerous. They were often performed in unsanitary conditions with improper and unsanitary equipment. During this time, women would show up in emergency rooms with all kinds of complications, such as perforations of their uterus, cervical wounds, severe bleeding, and infections. What is even more shocking is that this is actually still happening today in countries where abortion is illegal. According to the World Health Report, 68,000 women worldwide die from unsafe abortions each year. This is happening right now. For example, in Thailand, abortion is illegal except for in cases of rape. I watched a news report which covered the raid of an illegal abortion clinic that operated in Thailand. The report conducted an interview of a young girl who actually opted herself to have an illegal abortion. She spoke of how pregnancy at her young age is extremely stigmatized in her country, and she was worried for her own future. She was unsure of whether or not she would be able to get into college because it's extremely competitive. She worried about being able to support the baby and support herself, which is why she ended up turning to abortion. She used all of her savings to pay for a stomach ulcer medication, which is often used to induce abortion, and she ended up having extreme side effects, and she needed to be hospitalized. And she is one of an estimated 300 to 400,000 women in Thailand who choose illegal abortion each year. By outlawing abortion, you are not stopping abortion. You are stopping safe abortions. Ultimately, by taking away a woman's right to an abortion, you are taking away her bodily autonomy, her right to have control over her own body. History has shown us, and is still showing us, that women will go to great lengths to preserve their autonomy, even if it risks their life. This is why those backing the pro-choice movement are not only fighting to keep abortion legal, but to keep it safe and accessible. There is a famous thought experiment that addresses the idea of autonomy and having a right to your own body. It is called the violinist thought experiment, and it goes like this. You wake up in a hospital bed. There are wires and tubes coming out of your body, and you look over and you see that in the bed next to you, there's another person attached to the same tubes. The doctor tells you this is a famous violinist, he has a deadly disease. They found a cure, but it requires you to be hooked up to the violinist for 9 months. By having him hooked up to your body, you will heal him. He will be fine. He'll be on his way, but you need to remain hooked up to him. You need to stay in bed for 9 months. You have the choice of whether to unhook yourself and you can leave, but that would kill the violinist, or you could remain hooked up to him and save his life. The point of this experiment is to get you thinking less about the issue of when a fetus becomes a human and the specifics along those lines, and to think more about the body autonomy aspect of it. Like, do you have a right to your own body? Can you unhook yourself and let the man die? Is that morally right, or is that murder? I think that this experiment is pretty thought-provoking, but also doesn't apply to every situation. To me, this relates more to a case of pregnancy that occurred from a rape, because you're attached to the violinist without consent. So in my opinion, it seems pretty obvious that since you never consented, you never agreed to doing it, you should be allowed to unhook yourself. That would be morally right because you never gave consent. A lot like the case with a rape. You didn't give consent. You didn't choose to have sex. You didn't choose to create the baby. So you should have the right to terminate because you didn't consent in the first place. But this experiment, I think that it's a little bit different because in the case of a pregnancy that occurred from consensual sex, this metaphor doesn't really address the fact that you chose to partake in the behavior of sex to become pregnant. So it's a little bit different in that regard, but I still think that is a very interesting and thought-provoking experiment in regards to abortion and just thinking along the lines of bodily autonomy. So I just want to leave off with this. There are a ton of people who are against abortion for many different reasons, be it religious belief or beliefs about when a fetus is considered a human or whatever their justification is. But the fact is, if we make abortion illegal, it isn't going to stop abortions. It is going to stop safe abortions. This really is just taking away women's rights to their own bodies, and there are a lot of consequences to that that I think a lot of people don't realize. So I just think that it is really important to be looking at the whole picture and everyone's side of this issue. So that is everything that I have to say for now on abortion.